Hey Tom, how you doing? We're
Good. How you
live.
doing, Bo? Good, good. Cool. Well, we have Willie Hooks here to talk to us about abundance and working our business with the abundance mentality. We have been having a couple of technical difficulties here getting the PowerPoint presentation going. Bo, do you want to just see if you can get Willie set up on that screen share one more time?
Okay. Yeah, I think you're in control of your screen now, aren't you, Willie? If you click on the screen share on the left side of your screen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know whether you want to start with your screen share up or not, but you're in control of your screen share. So
So you are live. You're ready to go right there. Perfect. Now there's the screen share.
How do we get it on the big, up on the main part? Do I click on that? Oh, I see. If you click on it, it goes up on.
Yep. And for everybody that's out watching off the screen here, they should be able to see the full screen right now. So cool. Can you hear us, Willie? You ready to go?
My patience with technology is gone, so let's move on.
All right. So with that, take her away, Willie.
Well, it started off with you asking me, Tom, about the whole law of abundance. We were having a discussion where you were saying, as you do business, is there a way to use more forces, more power, more things than just the standard, make a plan, follow the plan, stay on it, and keep working and keep your head down, and you run into a tree. When
Right.
there is the thing called the universal laws, and so let's start off by talking about what the universal laws are, and it's just a series of laws that governs how the universe works. And you don't need to know how the laws work to take advantage of them. For example, one of the laws that we use consistently, we use it all the time, is the law of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't know how the law of gravity, the science behind the law of gravity. They just know that if an apple falls off a tree and they're sitting under it, it will hit them on the head. You know, if you release a ball, it will fall downward, not upward. So what's the law that governs that? We call it the law of gravity. And it's at play. It's something we use from the time that we're born. We discover it the hard way by falling, so we learn to use the law of gravity to operate, to get things done. Now, what beats the law of gravity? If you say, why does an airplane fly? There's a law called the law of lift. See, so you can use the law of gravity and the law of lift to fly an airplane. But eventually, when the plane runs out of fuel, it loses lift, it will come down.
Right.
That's just one of the laws that we use all the time.
Yeah.
So I use this metaphor to say we're always in what I call the universal flow. It means all around us, constantly, are all the resources and all the things we need to produce any result that we want to produce. And I call that the universal flow. And the law of abundance, which you asked me to talk about, just says everything you need to achieve any goal that you set is always flowing around you. There's just times when you can't see it because you're closed off to the possibility because you believe it's going to be difficult. Mm-hmm. For example, if you think about OPM, people will tell you raising OPM will be difficult. And you'll go, well, have you ever tried to raise OPM? No, I haven't. But I just know it will be difficult. I know it will be the hardest part of doing this business. Well, if you've never tried it, how do you know that's the case? But what you set up is the law of scarcity, right? Because you're saying, I know it's going to be difficult. The universe responds to requests. So when you say it's going to be difficult, you send out a request, and that request is answered with what? Difficulty. So when you go to raise OPM, difficulty. If you say it's going to be a challenge to build the business, the universe takes that as a request, and it says, let's make it difficult.
Mm.
If you say, we're going to partner, but the partnership will be difficult, guess what you get back? If you say, let's partner, but the partnership will expand the pie, because there's this paradigm of scarcity that says if I partner with other people, the pie will be constricted, I'll get less, when in reality, the universe is still growing. Think about this. I was reading something a few days ago that says the universe has just got bigger. Well, how does something expand that's already everything? See, there's a different set of laws that the universe operates under than how we perceive in our conditioned mind that it works. So you could partner and team with people and actually get a bigger piece of the pie because the pie expands, which is counter to the way we think about things, because we think in terms of you either have an abundant thought process, which very few people have, or you have a scarcity thought process. And so you think if I team or if I partner or if I give something away, then it's going to reduce the amount of the pie that's left for me to take. When really it works just the opposite. By giving things away, by partnering, by sharing, you actually get more. So to kind of come back to the flow, everything you need in terms of information, resources, abundance, the manpower you need, the knowledge you need, it's all flowing around you. The money that you need is all flowing around you. There's never scarcity in the universe. So that's the law of abundance. It just says the universe is never scarce of whatever you need. It's always there. You just have to open your awareness to receive it. And you have to send out a request. You have to send out energy. You have to send out information to bring back and draw in the things that you need so you can see them. Does that make sense, or any questions on what I've said so far?
Yeah, it does. And I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
That's interesting. So a couple of things that come to mind is how do we are there certain things that we can practice or certain things that ways we can approach this so that we can actually convey that message to others? Or how can we practically put this back into business, so to speak?
Okay, so that's one question. You had a second question?
The second question was, it seems like there's probably a fine line between everything always being there and something being unrealistic. So I'm interested in seeing what sort of ways of differentiating between what is truly possible and a reality versus what isn't, and some of that gray area in between. Is it? I don't know. Those were two things that I thought of.
Right. Okay. So let me just take on one of them. So when we think of what's realistic, we tend to think of in a time frame. So what is possible in a time frame?
Okay.
The universe is not on our time frame, and so there are certain physical limitations that you might have. For example, I love to play basketball, but Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, they don't have anything to fear. I'm never going to beat them playing basketball because I have certain physical limitations and things like that.
Sure.
However, if you can truly conceive it, see, that's the distinction. Can you truly conceive it? Because we have this built-in mechanism that won't allow us to conceive something that is too far beyond our reach, too far beyond what we're able to grasp at this moment, too far beyond what the universe can pull into us that we can implement. So a good rule of thumb is, can you truly conceive it? Can you truly feel it? Can you truly experience it? If you can do that, then you can achieve it. See, that's the key. Can you do that? Can you truly conceive it? Can you feel it? Can you get your mind and your heart aligned? And so we can kind of think of, if you look at what I just put up, we emit this energy field that connects to the flow of all things, and it's a combination of the brain and the heart. So we used to think that the brain controlled everything, that the brain sent messages to the heart, and the brain direct the heart. But the new research is showing that the strongest electromagnetic field in the body is generated by the heart. And so when you have the heart, meaning your thoughts, align with your feelings and emotion, then you have what we call the brain and heart coherence that emits the field and connects you into the energy field that links everything. And so what this diagram is showing is that the more you can get centered, heart and mind, around the thing you want to create, and it's not just the thing you want to create. So let me just back for a moment, because one of the misnomers is you want a successful private lending business. You focus on a successful private lending business, meaning the business is making money, yada, 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 and we think that's how it happens. That is not the most effective, because that doesn't align the mind and the heart, right? There's no coherence. When you think of money, very few people have an emotional, positive reaction to money, because money is not ultimately what you want. A successful private lending business ultimately isn't what you want. Because here's a successful private lending business. You made $1 of profit.
Yeah.
That's a profitable business. Is that what you want?
Right. It's on the right side of the fence.
So when you have your mind trigger, and we usually have mind triggers, not emotional triggers, not heart triggers. We have mind triggers, and we'll say, well, I have a successful private lending business. It's producing a profit, and life is great and wonderful. Well, that's all head. That doesn't cause this field to extend to the fullest so that it can connect with all the resources that are flowing around you. So you don't achieve, brain-heart coherence, which doesn't allow you to tap in.
I see. Okay.
See, because what you really want is, you have to say, therefore, I have a successful private lending business, therefore, what am I able to do that energizes my heart?
Mm-hmm.
What am I able to do that generates feelings and excitement and emotion? What am I able to do that extends my field out so that I can connect to all the abundant things that are flowing around me, like the right partnerships, like the right money, the right knowledge, the right support staff, it's when those two are in alignment that field starts to extend out, and you might draw a resource from Europe.
Sure.
Because energetically it's all connected. So let me back and make sure that the piece that's missing, that I'm really clear on the piece that's missing, is the part that connects the heart, which requires people to have an expanded view of whatever business they're trying to do, whatever partnership they're trying to do, to what will it mean to them emotionally, because you want to achieve coherence.
Okay, so I'm guessing that what would happen then is that not only will that start to attract what we want it to attract, but it'll also help us make sure that we're in our reality of where we want to be by saying we're successful, therefore we're able to do something else.
Right. See, you're more in alignment with the reality of what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
when you make a declaration that I want a profitable business, that's really not stating what you really wanted.
Right. Right.
Right? It's like going into a restaurant and the waitress says, "What do you want?" You say, "Some food."
Uh-huh.
Well, that's not what you really want. Yes, it's a restaurant. Yeah, you want food, but that's not what you really want.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Just have you switched slides yet? Because we're still on Newton's Apple.
On what?
On Newton's Apple, on the first slide that you had put up. I don't know if you had switched slides yet or not.
I've switched slides, so.
That's, I thought based on what you said you might have, but for some reason it's not switching on our monitor here.
Okay. Well, you tell me what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm cool with where it's at unless Bo. Oh, there we go.
It is.
Yep.
There it is.
Now we have it.
What do you see now?
We just saw the flow, the flow of the blue. Oh, I don't know.
The river.
Fish.
Okay, so you're seeing the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we talked about the flow. You're always in the flow. There's just times when you think you're not in it, and usually in those times when you think you're not in it is your highest moments of doubt. And the way to, so I always say kind of the metaphor is, in your mind, you're in the river sometimes when things are going right. You feel like, oh, I'm in the flow and I'm in the zone and things are happening. Then when things are not happening, you think you stepped out of it. And I'm saying you didn't step out of it. Go back and get recentered on what you want, activate your mind, and then activate your heart, get reconnected. Take the doubt and suspend the doubt, and automatically you'll start to see more possibilities, which is
Right.
It's difficult when you look all around you and, deals are going bad and things are not happening fast enough. It's difficult for you to kind of wall it off
Yeah.
and put it aside and say, in the context of my whole life, this is just one piece. And so how I gain perspective, and I play this game with Mary and I when we're together and we're driving along, anyone can say perspective. And that's just the game we play to say, whatever situation we're in, let's come up with a perspective that includes the totality of the situation. So, for example, let's say we're driving along and we're talking about something that happened that didn't go the way we want. Let's say we had a flat tire or something, and we're talking about flat tires, and then all of a sudden one of us will say perspective.
Yeah.
And the other one has to take and put that situation in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in order to have a flat tire, you had to have a car to have a flat tire.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people don't have a car. See, because one of the ways that we get down and get negative and get depressed and get de-energized is we take a small thing that's happening to us. And when I say small, I don't mean it's not important. I don't mean that it's not traumatic. I don't mean that it's not painful. But in the context of our whole life, if we put it in the context of our whole life, it is small. Because you can say, I woke up this morning. That's a big deal. I was able to think. I was able to complain. So when you put anything that you're facing in the context of your whole life, that thing more than likely will be pretty small. But
right.
What we do is just the opposite. We make it the biggest thing in our life, and we forget that we are in relationships with people that love us. We have kids that are doing this, and we have this that is going on, and on and on and on and on. We forget to put everything in that perspective. And so when we're driving along, we'll say perspective. It says shift.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not lose the fact that we're in a world that is truly abundant. With all the stuff that's going on, shift to look at the totality of your life and not dwell on the one thing that's pressing on you right now. Doesn't mean you ignore that thing. Just means you go, let me not let it dominate my mind and my heart, because what happens, guess what? How do we enter the flow? We enter the flow by thinking, what are we continually thinking about, and what we're continually feeling. So you have this negative thing happen, and I'm just going to use the deal because everybody on the line understands what it feels like for a deal to go south or to imagine it in their mind. A deal went south. Guess what? You start worrying about the deal.
Mm-hmm.
You start experiencing the loss and the potential loss. You make it much bigger than it is. Guess what's happening? You see this next slide? Can you see the next slide?
Yep, yep.
See that field?
Yes.
That energetic field becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're standing in the flow, and you're reaching out, and you're grabbing what? Everything you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you don't want, because your request, energetic request, is saying, send me more of what I'm feeling right now.
Yes.
See, so people get the law of attraction wrong because they think the law of attraction says what you focus on, you get. That's true and not quite true. What you focus on and what you're feeling brings you more of things that give you those feelings. Follow? So it's a little bit different. So if I'm thinking about a car wreck and feeling that, it doesn't mean I'll get in a car wreck. I could though, but it does mean I'm going to get into some kind of situation that brings me the same kind of feelings I would get if I was in a car wreck.
Sure. Interesting.
And so people go, well, I wasn't thinking about this, and I go, well, yeah, but did what happened to you give you the same kind of feelings of the thing that you were thinking about? And they go, yeah, I feel helpless and victimized, and I go, that's what you got. I wasn't thinking about a car wreck. I was thinking about something else where I felt helpless and victimized, and I had a car wreck.
Yeah.
See, the feelings are the same. The thing may be different.
Yeah.
So whenever something is happening and your mind and your heart are sending out these communications in the flow, it just keeps expanding, expanding, expanding. And, you know, there are new instruments that allow them to measure this field as it extends out. So some of the data will allow you to, the new instruments, so you can start to measure it and see it and see that it's not just a new age mumbo jumbo on energy and all the other stuff, that the instruments now allows you to really tap into that. And so the intensity and the duration strengthens the attraction. So if you start out and say, I can visualize my private lending business and visualize the results and visualize what I'm doing with the money and visualize the people I'm helping with the deals that I'm doing and visualize me putting people back to work. And then I can hold that feeling. I can get the feeling intense, and I can hold the duration longer and longer. Send out further and further, deeper requests to bring more of those kind of things into your business.
Interesting.
And
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was, Bo, are we able to accept questions online right now? The reason I ask is that when you mentioned that before about the flow, sort of the visual, the picture of the river and staying within the flow, and then you mentioned the game that you guys played, it just that really short exercise actually kind of, I could feel the difference myself just from the pressures of the day, but just thinking, putting it in perspective, it really made a bit of a difference, and I'd be interested to see if anybody has any comments or questions as it relates to that or anything that Willie is talking about so far. So, but that was just an observation I had. If we were to one of the
well, you got Barry there, and Barry, do you have any questions? Or I know you got your whole team of good-looking guys that were on the technology before mine moved out. Any questions they have or?
Hey Tom,
Yes.
Sorry, I was muted. I didn't realize it. Sorry.
Okay.
There are two questions here, and I'm going to pull one up. I don't know. Do you have your Q&A opened up, Willie, on the
No.
left?
Why don't you just read them to me in someone?
Yeah.
The left side of the screen, there's a Q&A button. You could open up your Q&A it'll open up on the right side of your screen.
I think he asked if you'd be able to just read it.
Just read them.
All right. So what are your best tools for conceiving what you are working to create? That was Andrea asked that question. It was a little while back towards the beginning.
Yes. So the process that I recommend is you look at what the possibilities are. If, let's say you're thinking about a particular goal, and let's say you said, "Hey, I want to raise $10 million worth in OPM," and you go, "Boy, if anything is possible, then why can't I get $10 million? So let me set that as a goal." So then my question and then you do all the things that I talked about. You figure out what it will feel like and what you'll be doing and how it would change your life, and you do all that stuff. And then you're kind of sitting there, and I go, okay, in your heart, do you feel like this is doable for you? And the level of stress you feel will tell you whether that's in your level of conception. And then you might have to back it off. You might say, I said 10 million, but boy, I feel so stressed when I think about it. Let me back it off and see what it feels like for 8. And let me back it off and see what it feels like for 5. See, as you back off, you'll start to feel less and less stress. Let me back it off until it's 5. And you reach a place where you go, yeah, that feels comfortable. And then I go, okay, now start to walk forward to a place, go from 5 to 6 to 7. Because what you're trying to find is a place that is pulling you forward with some stress, but it's not so stressful that you would lose sight of it, or you start to sabotage yourself. So you want some tension, but you don't want it to be so stressful that you start negatively creating. So that's the process. Because the resistance is not in what the universe will provide. That's not it. The resistance is where will you start to work against yourself, because you'll have way more negative thoughts and doubts than you're able to compensate for by sinking yourself into the reality of what is doable.
Hey Willie, this is Barry. I do have a question. So is there an exercise? You were talking about perspective and what you and Mary do in the car. It's sort of like you do it as it is an exercise in a sense. But let's say in order to put yourself in that perspective, let's say when something bothers you, when something bad happens, let's say the car accident or the flat tire, any of those. I know that I try my best when I can remember when I'm in that state to quiet my mind if I can, and I think there's an art to that as well. Is there any kind of exercise you would recommend that it would help you get to that state where you can actually see the perspective? Because when you are in that state, when you're really upset, if your deal has gone bad or whatever that might be, is there a way to help you, assist yourself in getting yourself into that calm state where you can see the perspective?
Yeah. So first, forget the calm state for a moment.
Okay.
Okay, because that's an assessment. So gratitude is the fastest way to activate all of the universal law. So start to look for things you appreciate. So for example, you just got a bad deal and something just went wrong. Then start to look for whatever you like. What are the things? It could be flowers. Like for me, I love movies. I'll go to a movie or I'll read a book. See, what you're trying to do is not trying to pretend that the bad thing doesn't bother you. You're trying to find things that you truly appreciate and shift and be grateful for them. because the appreciation for a flower will override your negative for a deal that's lost, because there's no magnitude assigned by the universe for appreciation. So if I can appreciate the fact that I have a clean shirt, the fact that I have a washer and a dryer, you start to look for things that you appreciate and to truly be thankful that you have them. Now, I recommend that you start to build a gratitude list. So in those moments, you reach for your list and you start to just go down your list. So every day, you add 3 more things to your gratitude list. 3 more things that you appreciate. 3 more things that you're grateful for. Then after a while, you'll have a pretty extensive list that when things go bad, you go get your list and you just start going down them, and you make it a regular practice of, well, let me just go and review. Oh, wow, I really like the fact that I got a plasma TV and I'm able to watch the Niners finally win a game. I really, I like my house. I got my kids. I got my wife. I got my family. And, I love to walk in the park. I love to do this. So you keep building, and every day you make a discipline of adding 3 more things to your list. After a while, you'll have books, and you just open up and you just start reading. And you start reading, visualizing, and thinking, and really being sincere about those things. Because what that will do is you're overriding all those negative emotions by locking into things that you appreciate. And then there's one more technique. So Rim, set up a gratitude log, an appreciation log. In that moment, be conscious enough, pick your log up and start to read through it. And then there's a technique I call flick back, flick up. So in that moment, you may be so kind of emotional that you can't conjure up the emotions that you need, right? And so you flick back to a time in the past, it could be your childhood, of one of the most exciting things that you've ever done. So you flick back to the past, step into those emotions, and then you bring that right up into the present situation and read your list.
Awesome answer. Thank you. That was great.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you, Willie.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Remember last Sunday we were talking about the project that I'm working on, and it has to do with borrowers and getting the borrowers to understand the value of working together and the bigger pie, the bigger piece, a smaller piece of a bigger pie is better. The whole notion behind, or the idea of that if we can all spend most of our time doing what we're really good at and let other people do what they're good at, there's a lot higher efficiency in it all. What do you have any thoughts, any ideas, any ways to share those with our borrowers, those ideas or those concepts, or any thoughts on how to put some reality around that whole idea?
Yeah, there's a piece of whenever you're working with people, whether they work directly for you or you're working together, I don't make a distinction. So if I'm working with anybody, we're teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter whether they're an employee, a contractor, or partner, whatever, we're teammates. And I'm looking for people that understand the value of, if we're in it for the long run, a model where everyone is working as much as they can on that thing that they love to do, the thing that they're good at, that gets, so if you think of a team, so I've been talking as though this applies to an individual. When I talk about being in the flow, so an organization, and I use the word organization loosely because I'm not talking about people that work for you, But anytime you're trying to do something, you're a team. So, for example, like, Bo and Barry and you're a team there. So who works for who and none of that matters. Your energy collects together and creates an energetic field. And if you're working on the work that you enjoy doing, then so you start to get that heart connection, and it expands the field, and that's what makes the pie bigger. So 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It equals 24, because you have the coherence of people doing the work that they enjoy, bringing the skills that they have to the table, seeing the result. The challenge is getting people to say, let's put our ego aside, because where the challenge comes into is the ego comes up, and the ego is what? The ego is about what? More than. I need to be greater than someone else. And so you can get into the battle of, are borrowers greater than this? Is this work more value than this? And this is that. And it could be an ego state versus a contribution state. Because there's times that when George and I are working together, his contribution for that situation is going to be greater than my contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we did Titans Code this weekend, and beautiful weekend, and really it's George, Wilt, and I working together. And in this whole event, Wilt delivers probably 80% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he brings. I mean, he's been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. He's very deep in it. And so he brings his contribution. So we go, what parts do you want to do, and what parts do you want to do? And we all do our thing, and that energy causes it to expand. But you got to take and say, let's take the ego out of it, because the ego is always trying to be more than someone else, and just focus on the work. Just focus on the contribution that you're going to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Really understand how the laws of the universe works, and how that whole love and doing what you enjoy, making that contribution, has a synergistic effect that causes you to draw more abundance into it. And therefore the pie gets bigger. The overall result gets bigger. It's not an individual piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens in the long run. It's not about short run. So it's like shifting the focus from, in the short run, people are into survival. And if you can have your team understand that the long run is where you prosper and you have great abundance. In the short run, can you move out of survival?
Mm-hmm.
And can we move into the long run? Can we look at, that's why being kind of vision-led is so important, because when you have a vision that's in the future and you start to make decisions based on the possibility versus survival, I mean, that's the dynamic of the leader. So whenever you're dealing with the day-to-day kind of stuff, if you can get borrowers, if you can get investors, if you can get people to step out of the survival mode and raise themselves up to see what is possible, that's where you have less conflict and more synergy.
Yeah, that's interesting. The word that really triggered it for me was ego. That explains a lot. What would you say is the opposite of ego?
Love.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you shift from? So ego is what? It wants to protect itself.
Mm-hmm.
So can you shift from? Can when I see partners that crash and burn, they crash and burn because the ego gets in the way, and they feel like I have to protect myself. I'm either protecting myself or I need to elevate myself. The ego gets its importance out of being better than someone else. And what if you're not careful, you can set up a work environment where people start to feel that something's better than something else versus it being a piece of work that needs to be done. In the old days, we used to have this thing that says all work has dignity. And so the person sweeping the floor did work that had dignity, and you showed him or her respect for the contribution they made of sweeping the floor. I remember this story that was told when Kennedy made the declaration that we're going to put a man on the moon, all right? And he went to visit NASA, and he walked in, and the janitor was sweeping the floor, and he stopped, and he asked the janitor, he said, "What do you do here?" And the janitor said, "I'm putting a man on the moon."
Yep.
You know, I'm putting a man on the moon.
Yep.
So we have to be careful as leaders that we're not making people feel like their work doesn't have dignity.
Mm-hmm.
They may just be, quote unquote, sweeping the floor, but that's putting the man on the moon. They may be just running papers to the escrow office, but that's helping you build, you know, get your deals made. That's helping you build a business. That's helping you put people back to work. They may be, so good leaders are never trying to take a person and make them feel like what their work is demeaning or less than. Does the compensation and all that reflects the difference? Sure. But that's not what kills the spirit of the organization. That's not what kills the spirit of people. It's feeling like less than.
Yeah. Interesting. And so the ability to articulate to a borrower that vision of teamwork and that vision of working at our what we're best at, and the more of the long-term relationship rather than just a one-off deal. To me, that seems like it could be really valuable if one can get that balance.
Yeah, and you start with that being what's at the core of how you feel and think.
Mm-hmm.
That really, hey, look, wealth classes is a beautiful example. When, you know, George and I and you know, Hader and Gary and whatever, I mean, believe me, we did not, if we had taken the short-term view, there would be no wealth classes. Because in the early days, you know, we were not making, you know, enough money to keep the bills going and all that. We were coming out of our pocket, but what did we believe in? The long-term picture.
Mm-hmm.
We believed in the long-term picture. We said, we're in this for the long run. And we know in the short run, we're going to have to sacrifice. We're going to have to give up stuff. But we believe that at some point in time, it will happen. But that's a team driven by a passion, driven by a commitment, driven by a purpose to make a vision a reality. I mean, George and I was sitting in a room, and we put a number up. We said we want to impact 50,000 people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Cool.
And we went through the process that I talked about earlier, where we started off and we said, you know, 100,000 or a million. We said, let's back it off until we feel it's in our range, and then let's move forward. And we came out and we said 50,000 people.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. We didn't put we're going to make X number of dollars. That's not what we put. We did not run the numbers on what money is going in our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It never came up as a discussion. It was how many lives are we going to impact in what period of time. Now let's go get it. Let's go get at it. We never said, let's figure out how we're going to divide up the pie.
Mm-hmm.
We said, let's go get at this mission. We'll sort all that out as we go.
Right.
Let's go get at this mission, because that was what we wanted to do. That was our whole purpose. That was our whole mission. And that's what we're on the path to do. We're not there yet, but we feel very good about the progress we made.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Okay.
Bo, did you have another question there, did you say?
Yeah, there's one more. How can you best deal with others around you that may not have the same energy as yourself? Is it best to get them out of your life or work to bring them to the positive side?
Yeah, that's a challenge that people have that I don't have, and I'm always working on Willie. I'm always working on Willie. Those that follow, follow. And so when you're building an organization, the challenge is you spend too much time on people that's just not their thing. That's not their calling. That's not where they should go. That's not what they should be. You're really looking for people that catch the vision. That catch the vision. I tell people, I go, for a lot of people, I'm a great coach, I'm a great mentor, and I'm a great leader. But I'm not a great coach, a great mentor, and a great leader for everybody. I'm a great teacher for some people. You have to trust in the universe that the right teacher, the right coach, the right mentor, the right organization, the right vision is out there for them. That it's not your role to try to force them into your vision. A great leader paints the picture, paints the vision, and then that leader watches his steps to see if he's walking the talk, if he's living up to it. I remember this saying that when I worked with a Zen master, he said, we should always be teaching something. And every now and then we might use words.
That's good.
See, so really your task is to walk the talk, to be that change, and people that want to be on that bus will get on it. And people that don't want to be on it, you need to find a way for them to choose to be off of it with dignity and respect. Because sometimes we don't make it okay for someone to say, you know, this is just not where I want to go. This is just not what I want to be. And we go, we understand that. So how can we help you go beyond what is tugging at your heart, go beyond your journey, rather than trying to force you to stay on our journey or making you feel bad for being on our journey and wasting a lot of our energy trying to put a round, peg into a square hole. And I go, the best thing you can do for leaders when you see people that are not on board with the vision, and you'll see it by looking at their walk, not their talk, and just have a straightforward conversation, one that validates them, one that doesn't demean them, and find a way for them to go their way and find their passion. Because the worst thing you could do as a leader is hold someone into your organization. And again, I'm using the word organization loosely, because it could be a borrower, it could be a rehabber, it could be people you use as resources to help you. So to me, an organization is not this whole hierarchy of people that report to you. It's anyone that you're relying on as a part of your team to help you fulfill your mission. Is to keep someone on a team where it's just not working for them. And you can tell by their emotional state, you can tell by their work ethic, you can tell by the level of complaints and things like that. You can say, there's a place for you somewhere. It's not here.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? How can I help you get there? And over the years, I've had that conversation with lots of people where I've said, look, it's not working for you here. What can I do to help you get where you want to be? Because it's not here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a whole lot of things to help them get there. And sometimes you have to tough love it and say, this is the end of that road.
Yeah, right.
But even that, you do it with dignity, you do it with respect, you do it not making them feel wrong, and just know. And I pray for them and hope that they find whatever causes them catch on fire. But it's not my job to make them get there. So I'm not in the business of making anyone do anything. I'm in the business of handling Willie and working with Willie, and the more I can embody the core values that are important to me, the more I radiate out the things that are important to me, the more impact that has on people that are around me. But that impact is not for everybody.
Okay. Great. That's really very insightful. Anybody, Justin, did you have any comments, questions, anything?
Not necessarily. I mean, they're all very good points. I guess the only thing I can mention or relate to is the sometimes difficulty in maintaining positivity, maintaining a positive state of mind when everything around you, all input gets hugely negative. But you bring up good points of these things that help you to get back in the river and regain focus.
Yeah, let me just touch on, I don't know when your call is up, so let me just make a couple.
We got another 6 minutes.
One point is, see, when I say positive, let me make sure you understand what I mean. Positive just means you're focused on what you want versus what you don't want. Focus on what you want. So if you focus on what you want, I say that's positive. If you focus on what you don't want, I say that's negative. And it just means, so it's not a value judgment. If you can look at your focus and say, man, when things are going wrong, am I focused? Do I kind of do the quick serenity prayer? Do I go, see, because when things go wrong, you need to deal with it. I'm not saying you put your head in the sand. And I'm not saying you think, oh, I'm going to wish it away. When things go wrong, you go, I got a flat. What am I going to do about this flat? What can I do? And you get on about fixing it. So it's not about ignoring problems, but it is about walling it off so where it doesn't dominate everything else in your life, that you return your focus back on every area of what you want. Otherwise, you can bring it home. You can come home and kick, go through the door and kick the cat, right? And the cat didn't do a thing. And then you follow kicking the cat to not being loving and respectful to your mate and your friends and da-da-da-da-da. So it just means focus on what you want versus what you don't want. Don't worry about the state so much. Just make sure you focus on what you want, and you're using that. And you're also, and then the final point is, and then you make requests to the universe to ask for help. Help me with this situation. These are the kinds of situations where, when a deal goes bad or something goes bad, it stresses me. Help me with that. And then be open for help in that area. Because the universe will help you as well. So if you say, my challenge is I get stressed in these situations, I'm dealing with this, then make a declaration and ask for help and say, this is what I need help with. Be very specific. And do a request for help, and then be prepared for the answers that come to you. And the answers will, the trick is, or the tricky part is, the answers will come to you in your own voice, and you can think their thoughts, and then you can ignore them, when really that's the universe communicating with you that this is what you do when you have a stressful situation. This is how you should handle it. All right, guys?
All right. Good.
Thanks, Willie.
Yeah. Anybody else have comments?
I was reading a book this morning called The Slight Edge, and in it they talked about we tend to live in our past and worry too much about maybe our future or vice versa. And they made the comment that, you know, we live in the moment. It's like, what are we doing right now that we can control? But we tend to worry about things that are out of our control. You have any thoughts about that, Willie, as far as living in the moment and not?
Well, there's the domain of action. This is where we get confused. There's only one domain you can take action in, and that's now. And so if you say, if I live in the moment, I can take action to move me in the direction I want to be. So the past is gone, the future isn't here yet, and so what we do is we allow a non-existent past, because it's dead, it's a memory, right? The past is gone, and we allow that past to rob us of taking action in the moment. So I'm glad you brought that up. Whenever you find yourself upset, think about a time when you were upset. Whenever you find yourself upset over something, there's a statement that says, whatever you think you're upset about in this moment isn't it. So what you're really upset about is the past. And let me just explain that. If you find yourself upset over something, so let's say, for example, a deal goes bad. In the moment, what you're upset about is typically either, here it goes again, in my life I've had these kind of things happen to me, or you go forward in the future and say, well, this is what the future thing could be. If you could just take it as this isolated incident that never happened to you before, you've never had these experiences before, anything that happened to you in the moment would not bug you. Because if there's no past, if it never happened to you before, you have no, I've had these feelings before, it would be a fresh, new, first-time incident. And no one gets upset over first-time incidents. So the fact that you get upset over something really is a good pointer as to what past baggage you have, because it's really a trigger tool that triggers you into the past. So being upset pushes you either in the past or into the future, not in the present moment. Because in the present moment, it won't exist. Because it needs to be linked somewhere.
Very good. Very interesting. Did you say that was called Slight Edge?
Yeah, the Slight Edge. It's a really good book. It's kind of a different style to your typical motivational book. It gets down to just talking about the little things that we need to do every day that are easy to not to do, that make a big difference over a compounded period of time, that we actually rob ourselves of our future because of the compounding effects of things that we don't do.
Yeah.
That are actually simple to do, but because they're simple, we don't do it.
I call it winning in the week. That you need to win every week. People think well, I missed my goal for the year. I mean, we're sitting here in, October, right? And with 3 months left, and people go, well, I missed my goal this year. And I go, no, you missed it in January. And because what you didn't get done in January, you didn't pick it up in February. See, so if you don't win every week, by the time you get to the end of the year, it looks like, oh man, I didn't make my goal, when really you missed your goal week by week, not at the end of the 12 months. Mm-hmm. So like you were saying on the Slight Edge, is can you keep making these small incremental steps towards your goal? And so I say to people, one of the traps with being successful is success is boring, because success is built off of these mundane, consistent, repetitious things. And it's easy to say, let me put this one off, and let me put this one off. let me eat one more cupcake. When it's this constant little by little by little that leads to victories. It's the routine. And by the way, when you run an organization, you know where your profit is? Your profit is in the routine things that you do all the time. The one-off things look attractive. They might get you a big spike, but they eat up more resources than they're worth. So profitability comes by the repetitious things that you do all the time, because you get good at them, you do them efficiently, you do them quickly, they take less resources, and the profit is higher. But we can get lured into these big things and, oh man, look at the revenue in there, and go, yeah, but man, we had never done it before, we priced it wrong, we sized it wrong, we had the risk in it, we got it done, and we made $3. If we had stayed with our niche, we would have done 20 of them and made $20. And so I tell people, look for that, look for your niche, and your niche is where you're going to do repetition. Resist this creative stuff, because the creative stuff typically is beyond where you have your resources, and it requires an investment, and ultimately the profit isn't there. The upside revenue might be there, but when you look at the profit, it wasn't there. And if you look at the stress on your resources, it wasn't there. If you look at the stress on the organization, it wasn't there. And you find that you're better off sticking to your niche and being very good at those few things that you're good at, and making the profit that comes out of there.
Great. That's very helpful. And thank you very much, Willie Hooks. Thanks for joining us and for the insight. And cool, Bo, thank you for all your efforts in putting this together. And Justin, thank you. And Barry. And until next week, I guess, anybody have anything to share right before we sign off? If not,
just live in the moment.
Yep, that sounds good. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.